Ohio State's fourth practice of the spring is in the books. We did some interviews here at the Woody Hayes Athletic Center on Thursday. Nathan Baird from cleveland.com, along with Stephen Means. And a lot of defensive players talking today, a lot of receivers talking today. And the crux on the defensive side, every time we talk to somebody, whether it's a coach or a player, it feels like we learn something new about how multiple this defense will be or could be this fall. Among the things we heard today, C.J. Hicks said, and Sonny Styles did both. We knew Sonny Styles was playing both Will and that nickel Sam position. C.J. Hicks said he also is playing some of that nickel Sam position, that guy who has only played inside linebacker previously in his career here at Ohio State. He also said that James Laurinaitis said they might rotate 4 or 5 guys at linebacker this year through what is essentially 2.5 spots. But as you start to hear them be complementary to so many different linebackers, whether that's Arvell Reese, whether that's Gabe Powers, in addition to Cody Simon and the other guys we've already talked about, they're just running out of guys. Like it makes sense that they would try to find ways to get them all on the field. And what was the last? At nickel safety, Tim Walton was asked who else is repping there besides Jordan Hancock, the returning starter, and he threw out some names such as Caleb Downs, such as Jordan Hancock, also threw Miles Lockhart in there, and Lorenzo Styles Jr., who we knew was slated to be there. So, Stephen, of all of those things, just that we heard today, which one is the most intriguing to you as to what it could mean for this defense in 2024?
Yeah, Jermaine Matthews also doing it, in which he said he's also done it in high school, so it's not a brand new position to him. But I think the most interesting thing is probably C.J. Hicks doing nickel Sam stuff, because that's just not at all where my mind was at with him ever, whether it's as a recruit or as a guy now. But it does also just sound like when you start listing off all these names of people, it's spring. We have a lot of people who probably deserve to play football. So let's just try stuff and see what works. We have, they're 4 practices in, which means they got 11 more of these to do, plus a bevy of practices in fall camp. All these guys are not going to do this on Saturday come the fall, but why not have options? You never know what's going to happen as you're trying to get through a 16 or 17 game season. Injuries do pop up. We're talking about positions where we have seen guys get banged up over the last couple of years, to be frank about it. So if you're also not pushing Denzel Burke and Davison Igbinosun and Cody Simon and insert player who's played 1,000 snaps here as much, it gives you opportunities to get more of these other guys on the field and just try stuff out, which Jim Knowles has been a defensive coordinator for a long time. I don't think he's ever had this much talent in this many spots to where he can be as creative as humanly possible.
Yeah, and a lot of this isn't necessarily setting up a plan A. A lot of them, it's a plan B. Some of it will be to be multiple and versatile depending on the matchups that they get with the different packages that they want to put out there. But some of it is when things go wrong, as they did last year, Lathan Ransom gets hurt. Now how do you reconfigure things in the best 11-man look that you can put out there? And that's where Caleb Downs spending time at nickel safety is intriguing to me, because if something happens in the back end, or I guess more to the point, if something happens at nickel safety, if something were to go wrong with Jordan Hancock, or they needed to play him outside more because something else happened at corner, you can see where kind of the dominoes start to fall. Well, they have other guys in the back end that they feel long-term are going to be good deep safeties. So does that free Caleb Downs up to come up and fill the hole at nickel safety? Or is it something that, again, depending on the matchup that they're getting in a given game, does it make sense to play him more in the box to keep him up there? Because we know how physical is, how many tackles he piled up last year at Alabama. And that's an element that he brings to this game, in addition to the range that he has and the vision that he has in the back end, the speed. So I'm intrigued by that. Are they seeing ways to, as they have talked about with Sonny Styles kind of at the front part of the back seven, could Caleb Downs be a similar guy in the back part of the back seven? It's really the back seven that we're talking about with this sort of versatility. Even though up front, even though Jim Knowles was just talking about different things they could do with the ends a couple weeks ago and playing them as outside linebackers. It's just a couple years ago, it was a sign of this defense's weakness that you didn't know who the best 11 players were. Like, could Ohio State identify 11 starter-worthy guys? I'm talking about like 2021, maybe into 2022 a little bit with what was going on in the secondary at times, depending on injuries. And now you look at this, and they don't know who their best 11 are because there are more than 11, like many more than 11, who are contending for that title. And it's why this defense is projecting right now to be so strong, and it's kind of fascinating to watch this every time. Like I said, we talk to them every time this spring. There's a little new nugget of like, oh, this guy's trying this thing, and maybe we could do this thing. It just literally like every time there's something new, and we'll see what next week holds, because on Saturday they are scheduled to hold their first scrimmage, and that might open their eyes to something new or something that they've been experimenting with. Maybe it doesn't work and they go away from it and try something else. Much more coming from this spring as it relates to this defense, so get the text 614-350-3315. That intel, as soon as we hear it or see it, hopefully this spring, will be coming to you from cleveland.com.